Trump urges Supreme Court to delay TikTok ban, while Biden administration cites grave security risks. In a legal filing submitted on Friday, President-elect Donald Trump called on the Supreme Court to pause the impending nationwide ban on TikTok, set to take effect on January 19, just one day before his inauguration. Trump argued that delaying the ban would provide his administration the opportunity to negotiate a resolution that balances national security concerns with First Amendment rights. This position stands in sharp contrast to the Biden administration, which defended the ban in its own filing, asserting that TikTok poses significant threats to U.S. national security. The administration emphasized the platform's capacity to collect vast amounts of user data and influence content, citing potential risks tied to its Chinese ownership. The Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments on January 10th to decide whether the TikTok ban violates the First Amendment. This case is one of the most high-profile issues the court has faced, drawing nearly 24 briefs from lawmakers, advocacy groups, and stakeholders on both sides. TikTok, which serves as a digital hub for over 170 million Americans, has been at the center of a contentious debate over free speech and national security. Advocates warn that the ban could set a dangerous precedent for government control of online platforms, while opponents argue that the app's ties to China present an urgent risk to U.S. interests. In his filing, Trump refrained from addressing the core First Amendment issues but advocated for a pause in the ban's implementation. He suggested this approach would enable his administration to seek a negotiated solution that preserves TikTok as a platform while addressing security concerns. Delaying the effective date of the ban will allow the incoming administration to pursue a resolution that safeguards national security while upholding the First Amendment rights of millions of Americans, Trump stated. He also underscored the potential harm of abruptly shutting down a platform central to modern communication and cultural expression. Trump's position follows mixed signals about his stance on TikTok, though he recently pledged to save the platform. He met with TikTok CEO Shou Chew earlier in December and reportedly held follow-up discussions after submitting his brief. On the same day, the Biden administration urged the Supreme Court to uphold the ban, highlighting TikTok's ability to collect sensitive data and the potential for the Chinese government to exploit the platform for propaganda or manipulation. TikTok's continued operation in the United States presents grave national security risks, the administration's filing stated, calling the app a tool that could undermine U.S. interests, particularly during crises. This sentiment was echoed by several former Trump officials, including Jeff Sessions, Ajit Pai, and former Vice President Mike Pence. Pence's political advocacy group referred to TikTok as digital fentanyl and described the app as a technological weapon in a brief supporting the Biden administration's position. TikTok and free speech advocates countered the government's national security claims, arguing that banning the app violates constitutional protections. In its brief, TikTok asserted that Congress had not exhausted less restrictive options, such as requiring additional ownership disclosures. The First Amendment mandates that speech bans be a last resort, even in cases involving national security, TikTok stated. Organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, and the Knight First Amendment Institute joined the argument, warning against the potential consequences of restricting access to foreign platforms. The government's actions could set a dangerous precedent, granting it the authority to dictate what Americans can say, hear, or access online, the Knight Institute wrote. In a highly unusual move, the Supreme Court has fast-tracked the case, reflecting its urgency and national significance. The court will weigh the broader implications of the ban while considering whether national security concerns can override constitutional protections for free speech. Trump's filing, authored by his nominee for Solicitor General D. John Sauer, emphasized the need for a temporary stay on the ban's implementation. There are compelling reasons to allow the incoming administration to seek a diplomatic resolution before this act takes effect, Sauer argued. As the January deadline looms, the case underscores a complex clash between technology, geopolitics, and individual freedoms, with the Supreme Court positioned to deliver a landmark decision.